I'd like to say good afternoon and welcome to this final session or final program of the Aspire Wellness series called Celebrate Aging. And I've heard from so many of you that you've really enjoyed hearing the amazing stories and histories of our wonderful residents. So today we will have a conversation with Jean Robertson, who has been a Passavant resident for 12 years. But in order to prepare you for our interview, I like to give a general timeline of our guests' lives so you can know a little bit about them before we start the interview. So let me just tell you a little bit about Jean. Jean was born in 1928. She's the daughter of Ronald and Phyllis McIntyre, growing up in Sharpsville, PA, near Sharon. She was the oldest sister to one brother, Bill. As a child growing up, she loved animals, especially her dogs and her little lambs. Jean was a great student, and she graduated from high school in 1946. After graduation, she went on to Grove City College, where she studied teacher education. In 1947, she met her husband, Lee, who had re-enrolled at Grove City College after taking a break in his education to serve in the Army Air Corps as a bombardier while stationed in Italy. They were engaged before her senior year of college and married the following fall after she graduated. While living in Sharpsburg, Jean and Lee... Sharpsville, thank you. While living in Sharpsville, she and Lee went on to raise 3 children, Ellen, Susan, and John. And it had been said once that she wanted all of her children's names to end in the letter N, right? In 1963, the family moved to East Aurora, New York, near Buffalo, for Lee's work. And they moved again in 1967 back to Wexford, Pennsylvania, to a fun neighborhood with lots of characters and practical jokers. They had 2 more moves before they came to Passavant, to Hopewell, and then to a ranch house in Aliquippa, which was very close to their church, Mount Carmel Presbyterian Church, where they were involved in many things. Throughout the years, they especially enjoyed family time at their cabin in Potter County. Jean and Lee moved to Passavant in 2012, living in an apartment in Wittenberg. While here, he took painting classes and enjoyed the wine and cheese get-togethers. And Jean enjoyed going to Dairy Queen on the bus with her friends. And also the ladies' teas. And then you and your husband enjoyed sitting out on the benches in front of Wittenberg, I heard. So Lee passed away in 2017, and Jean now lives in Mountain Laurel. And in addition to her 3 children, she has 7 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren, one of them being born just a week or 2 ago, your newest great-grandchild.
Right.
So at this point, we're going to start our interview with Jean. So Jean, this is where you get to do some talking. Tell us just a little bit about your parents and what it was like at your home growing up when you were little. What were your parents like?
Well, my parents were probably typical of all parents of children at that time, my age. We thought we knew it all, and everything was fine. But yes, I had a good mother and a good father. My mother had been a school teacher for a short time before she was married, and my dad had Johnson and McIntyre Construction Company. And when we were growing up, he wanted to be near them, so made one of our outbuildings. I grew up on a farm, so there were barns, chicken coops, pig pens, you name it, on our property. So my dad, having been a builder, changed one of the big buildings into his office. He had the whole back with the fireplace and a very pretty office. And his secretary was in the first room as you came in the front door, and then waiting rooms and different things on the way back. And one of the rooms, one of our neighbors, they had quite a few children. We only had 2 neighbors. One was my brother, and the other was a doctor from Sharon. And he and his family had 6 children. And they they spent most of their time at our house, which was fine. They were good kids. And and their parents were fine. But the doctor, during the hot weather, he was fine, driving in and out of our driveway. But when winter time came and the snow filled, we had snow. So I was out front one day in the snow with my dog, taking her for a walk. And he came out of his driveway in his car and headed down the lower driveway, which, if it snowed for 10 minutes, that driveway was closed. I said, Jim, you can't go that way. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I know how to drive. Okay. Well, he got about as far as from here to the first row there, stuck. And I kind of sat there with my dog out front and smiled at him. And I said, see, this time the doctor was wrong.
There you go.
Anyhow, my dad had to send some of the fellows that worked for him down to get Jim out of the snowdrift.
Now,
But that was one.
and I was going to say, you were telling me once about your dad taking you to work.
Exactly.
He would take you to work?
Yes.
And your mom wasn't real keen on that idea, right?
Yes. And we learned to know when to go on the driveway before it was plowed and when not to. Mm-hmm. And by that time, he should have known.
True.
He listened to me from then on. But anyhow, I can remember that one time in the snow, and we did get a lot of snow. And we had lambs, which I loved, my little pet lambs. And the reason I had pet lambs, there are always a few, when you have several sheep, there are always a few that leave their lambs and don't take care of them. And the men that work for us would find them in the field and poor little things almost dead. Well, I couldn't stand that. So I'd get the baby bottles out and the milk, and we fed them on the bottle until they were old enough to take care of themselves. And I had a pet, one I made into a real pet. She was like a dog, followed me everywhere. And in the house, and I don't know if you know anything about sheep, but their little toes, clomp, 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 their nails. And I'd take them in the kitchen until my mother heard them. And I named her Susie, and I also had a daughter I named Susie. She wasn't here yet, though. But anyhow, this lamb was Susie, and she followed me everywhere. And just different things like that. Mm-hmm. I loved it there, and when I started school, all my friends, I don't know how my mother and dad did it, all my friends, and I don't mean one or two, I mean like 10 or 12, all wanted to be there with the animals and the hay and the, straws of the whole bit. Mm-hmm. And we had pigs, little pigs, you pick them up and they screamed just like a person. And, I don't know, it was just a fun life. And that's where we played and had everything there. And then my dad, as our kids got older, said, I think your kids need a swimming pool. So my dad put in a big swimming pool, mm-hmm. With a liner in it and the whole bit, the diving board, the whole bit. And I'm glad we did, because they all learned to swim. Mm-hmm. And pretty good swimmers, all of them. And I don't know, I used to worry about that. Well, Ellen, our oldest one, she kind of, she was a little more active than the other ones. I might say that. That's putting it mildly. But she was in there with my dad one day. The fence was not up yet around it. And Dad was in on the pool level, and my brother was down in where all the filter and everything was, down a few steps from the pool in another building. And Ellen was in the pool with Dad. She followed my dad around all the time, for which he loved. And he heard a splash. Well, you know what the splash was? My 4-year-old daughter in the bottom of the pool. So my father, who was a big man, jumped in, top coat the whole bit, and got her out. She came out laughing, and we thought he was going to have a heart attack. But anyhow, that was the only. The next day, the fence was up, and it had a padlock on it. The kids didn't know
the lock.
No, they didn't know that.
Dean, I'm going to take you back now. I'm going to take you back to your childhood right now.
How many?
I'm going to ask you about your childhood, and you had told me a story about your father taking you to work. And your mother wasn't real happy that she didn't think you should be going to work with him.
That's exactly.
Because you were a chatterbox, right?
Exactly.
Tell us about that.
Well, when he took me, yes.
And your granddad would, your grandfather you would hang out with your grandfather.
Yes.
And then, but your mother just thought that no one could get any work done if you were there talking to everybody.
That's what I talked to.
Right?
My dad was building the crippled, and it was all volunteer work there. And he told my mother, he said, I think she'd like it because Jean Lamoureux, who was an artist, every room was a different nursery rhyme. She had a mural all around the room. And of course, I thought that was great. I could see all the nursery rhymes. And Dad told my mother he was going to take me in that day. And she said, she will be in the way, she will drive you crazy. Oh, no. My father could see no wrong in his children. He found out that day. But anyhow, he took me in, and more or less, he was busy inspecting everything, but more or less handed me off with poor Jean Lamoureux. Her husband's name was Armand. He was a drummer in a band that played at Yankee Lake, which was a dance hall. Well, had the lake and everything, but on the weekends they I had a dance every weekend. And an orchestra there. He was in the orchestra. But anyhow, she was an artist, and she was doing the nursery rhymes around the ceiling. Each room was a different one. And my mother said, now, you better leave her at home or don't take her in where she loves to have her. Well, now, my age now, I know what a pest she was. Question, well, why do you do this? Well, where does that go? Why does it go there?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But you enjoyed yourself.
But Dad said, no. In his eyes, his children and his grandchildren could do no wrong.
That's a nice dad and granddad.
Proved him wrong. But anyhow, he couldn't admit that. And as I said, he had his office at home then. He'd semi-retired.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a few more questions for you. I have a few more questions for you. Talk to us about school, because I know you loved school and you loved to read. What memories do you have from being in elementary school or middle school? What can you tell us about your love for school?
I loved it. I loved my teachers. When I started in first grade at Lafayette School, my mother and dad drove us to school every day because at that time there were no schools where we lived. Mm-hmm. And I loved school. But anyhow, in first grade, Miss Hamilton was our teacher, poor Miss Hamilton. And it turned out there were 4 Jeans in my first grade class. 4 of us, and for some reason, when we went in that day, all 4 Jeans sat in the first row. And she had, she changed us according to alphabet then. Mm-hmm. Later on, but oh my word, that poor lady. But she was a good teacher. We all liked her, and I think we tested her to right as far as we'd go. Mm-hmm. But she was always good, nice teacher. Mm-hmm. And we went 5 grades together. Mm-hmm. And then 6th grade, we had morning and afternoon. And the principal of the school taught us in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then in the morning of our 6th grade was one of the regular teachers.
Okay.
But oh, it was great. And the girls thought they were big shots, and the poor boys just, at that point, came, had to put up with us. And, I loved it. I loved school from 1st grade through college.
To college.
Yeah.
Now, you also talked about your youth. You talked about your youth group and how much your youth group at church and how much fun you had.
Oh, yes.
What kind of things would you do as young
Oh, we
people?
loved that. Uh-huh.
Yes.
We did a lot of different things in the church. Things that needed to be done we were all high school, junior high and high school age. So we could do things, some better than others. But it was fun because we were there, because the boys were there. Hey, let's face it. You're at that age where you want the boyfriends around. So we did different little chores there and helped. We helped in different classes. Helped take care of the little kids. I can remember that. And I can remember one group where they had us teach. And I, at that time, was in college learning to be a teacher, trying to. And so that interested us. It was just a fun life. We were probably ready to string us up by our toenails sometimes, but I had a good life.
That's
I really
wonderful.
did. As did my brother and my dad. My mother was a little more of a disciplinarian. My dad was not a disciplinarian. Oh, they're fine. He would take me to the crippled children's clinic, and that was all volunteer work. And he used to take me there so I could see, as I said, this Jean Lamoureux was an artist, and she painted different rooms for different nursery rhymes, and so on, according to the age of the child that would be there. And my mother said, would Dad say she probably gets in the way? Oh no, they love to have her.
Your dad definitely loved you.
I don't know about that. When I think back,
Yep.
I feel really sorry for them.
Well, Jean, I'm going to bring you forward now to I'm going to bring you up to your college years, because after high school you went on to Grove City College.
Yeah, I went to Grove City College.
And from what I understand from our conversations, you absolutely loved college. You enjoyed college.
Oh, I loved it.
I know.
Oh.
Tell me a little bit about Grove City.
Pardon?
Tell me a little bit about Grove City. You talked about the places you and your friends would go to get ice cream.
Oh, ice cream. There was a short stop, and that was an old train car that they made into a restaurant, and that was the hot spot. That's where everyone met everybody else, at the short stop. So we had that, and that was right basically on the edge of campus.
Okay.
And then there was another little restaurant, ice cream parlor, not a restaurant. Another one on the other edge, on the town side. The town was here, the college was up here. And there was a little restaurant there that we lived in practically when we weren't in the one here. But we had hours. We weren't allowed out late or anything.
So you had curfews? You had curfews? Curfews, you had to be in your dorm?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And our hours, I can't imagine. We were all happy with going to bed, going back to our rooms by 8 o'clock every night, and that's what it was when we were freshmen.
Yep. And then you had, I know at Grove City you said you had chapel also.
I had to go to chapel we had, what did they call it? When we missed chapel, they would know, because you had to fill out by the rows, we had to fill in that we were in chapel, morning chapel every day. Except
I see people in the audience. They must be Grove City alum, shaking their heads.
Oh, yeah.
They remember.
Oh.
Yep.
But it wasn't anything. You think about going to church every morning, but it wasn't any hardship because we heard all the things that were going to go on that day. It was the religious part of it, yes. But there were also, they would tell us news of the day,
Yep.
what was coming up and different things. And that was done by one of the professors, but also by the head of the, what do I want to say? I can't say the word. Like the junior, anyhow, by one
Like
of
your
the,
class presidents or
Yes,
something like
yes.
that? Okay, all
they would
right.
announce the different things that day that we
Nice.
needed to know.
Right.
And we had cuts. I mean, you only had so many cuts from classes and chapel a semester.
And then you'd be
And,
disciplined, huh?
if you weren't there, you got a cut, so.
Well, it was in Grove City College, you were studying education, and you also at Grove City College is where you met Lee, your husband.
I did.
Tell us about how you met Lee.
Well, let me see. That goes way back. I met him my freshman year. And then during the summer, about between my freshman and sophomore year, there were older girls there, and we were the youngest. We rented, or one of the parents of one of the, Mary Louise Babcock, her parents lived in Erie, and they rented these cottages for us up on Lake Erie. And we went up and stayed there, but we were on one side of this little road back on the edge of the lake, and then was the whole big sandy beach, and then the more cottages. So we were separated quite a ways from the boys, but the boys rented a couple cottages too. And of course, the boys were all boyfriends of the girls that were there. So, but anyhow, and Lee was there, and I was too. But our parents were also very much involved. They were there. They came in when they weren't expected, and the different parents. So it was.
They were good chaperones.
It was on the up and up. It was good. If you can imagine that in this day and age today, I don't know. But the boys would be today. They'd be right there. They were there, but not with us, so to
Right.
speak.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what kind of things did you and Lee do when you would go out for dates?
Go to the movie. The only thing you could do, go to the movies in Grove City.
Yes.
Or,
Was it called the Guthrie back then?
pardon?
Was it called the Guthrie back then? The movie theater?
Well, we used to go to another place called the Shortstop. It was a little restaurant.
That was your, okay.
And the diner.
Yep.
The diner was the hot spot.
Very good.
And it was on the corner in Grove City, right by the college. And everything, I mean, it was all out in the open, and there were professors in there, or whoever.
Yep.
So no, you didn't get away with much.
We saw in one of the pictures that you were homecoming queen
Yes.
your senior year,
Yes,
and at May Queen also.
yeah.
So it sounds like you had a very active college life.
I did, yes, I guess I did. I tried to be in everything. But I loved it.
And then you got engaged before your senior year.
Got engaged at homecoming my senior year.
It was at homecoming.
And I was homecoming queen.
Were you expecting
Down
it?
my ring.
Were you expecting that you would get engaged, or was it a
I was
surprise?
pretty sure it was going to be pretty soon.
Okay.
I didn't know, but I think down deep, I kind of thought it would be homecoming. So it was.
And then you got married, you graduated from college.
Got married on
and
my
then,
mother and dad's anniversary in October.
I was going to say, and you graduated in the summer and then got married, so you and your parents share an anniversary.
Yes, we got married in the First Presbyterian Church in Sharon that I was born and raised in, and there all my time I lived in Sharon, we were in Sharon, and afterwards too, because my husband worked there for quite a while until he was transferred to Western New York.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Do you have any special memories from your wedding?
Pardon?
Do you have any special memories from your wedding?
Well, I thought it was perfect.
Well, and tell me who married you, because you have a special story about who married you, who performed the
Oh,
ceremony.
Dr. Wishart. He was my minister from, the whole time. And it was there afterwards. I mean, we kept going there. And yeah, Dr. Wishart.
There you go. And then you had special stories about your honeymoon. Where did you honeymoon?
We went to New York City. That's where I wanted to go. And a friend of my mother and dad's, a doctor friend, they told Dad that they could get us tickets for all these shows in New York City that were on television at the time. And oh boy, we had a ball. He got us all these. I saw more stuff in those. Well, we were gone about 10 days in New York, I think. And a little more than that, maybe. And it was great.
It's a special.
They're good, and they were good shows. Well, good at the time. Arthur Godfrey and Perry Como and you young people here, if there are really young people, they probably don't even know who I'm talking about. But anyhow, they were good shows, all of them. Very good.
Wonderful.
So that's what we did.
Yep. Well, and then not too a few years down the road, then that you started having and then shortly after that, you started having children.
Yeah.
And you raised your children. What was it like to be a young mother back in the 50s?
Well, there were so many of us, friends of mine, we were all young mothers at the same time, so it was great.
Yes.
Yeah, Ellen was born in 1954. She's our oldest. And Susie, 57, and John, 62. So those were the years. But yeah, we were, as I say, all of us. That was another thing that was nice. We all had babies at the same time. And we used to go to, I'm sure some of you maybe have heard of Yankee Lake, was a lake right outside of town, Sharon, basically. And we'd go there with the little ones, and we'd sit on, there was a big grassy bank down to the lake. We didn't, the kids were too little, the babies. We'd all go there, and we'd take picnic lunches, and our babies were all about the same age, and we didn't go down to the water, however. We stayed up in the big grassy area. We'd have picnics. And I mean, my mother and dad, I used to, after the fact, several years later, I don't know how they did it, but because we lived on a farm, and also had lots of acreage, they would have all of us there, all of my friends and the babies, have us there often, and have picnic lunches and different things. So we were scattered all over our yard most of the time. And I do have pictures somewhere of all this, but it was fun, because there were so many of us. Friends I'd graduated from high school or college with, and we all had the babies at the same time. So that was what we did.
And actually, before you had babies, I forgot, you actually did some teaching after college, but before you had children, you were a school teacher.
Oh yeah, I did. I taught at South Pymatoonie Elementary School. That was about 25 minutes away from where we lived. And I loved it. And the teachers there were, because I was a new teacher and young, they weren't real young. But they weren't bad. But anyhow, they were so nice to me. And I'll tell you, they taught me every bit as much as I learned in class.
Really?
These older teachers that were there, yeah. We became good friends. And the principal, too, he was a nice guy. And yeah, I liked it. I loved it. So that's where I taught until I got pregnant with Ellen. And then I did some subbing after the kids were born, but no permanent job then.
Yep.
So we lived out there until my husband was transferred to Western New York with his company. And we lived in East Aurora, New York.
Yep.
Also, we made many good friends there, and
you were there for 4 years? You were there for 4 years, and then you came back to Pennsylvania.
Came back to Pennsylvania.
Now, you've talked about your cabin in Potter County.
Oh, yeah.
I know that has a lot of special
Oh,
memories
that's
for you.
That's the family spot. My dad built a cabin in Potter County for us. And I don't know, has anybody here been there? I'm not sure. But, lots of people come up, we take a look. But the kids love it. Well, I'll tell you, it's a cabin, but it has electric baseboard, individual heat in all the rooms. It's, as I say, it's a little fancier than it looks like a cabin from the outside, and it has, as I said, all the electric baseboard heat in the rooms and fireplace, and it has a living room on the first floor. It has a living room, a sunroom, bathroom, dining room, kitchen. They're big rooms. Then there's a bedroom, big fireplace on the one wall. And we've been using, we still do.
You still do, yep.
Yeah, my son was up there. He called me from there yesterday, actually. I told him about this. And he thought that sounded good. Yeah, he called to tell me he was up there and what shape everything was fine. And,
that's wonderful. What a nice family legacy.
There.
Yep, what a nice family legacy that you got to enjoy it, your kids enjoyed it, now your grandkids enjoy it.
Yeah,
so it's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yes, they love it. It's there, it's nothing. The nearest cabin to it is a mile up the road. And it's fenced in on both ends of our property and this one up the road. So it's fenced in, so
nice.
You need the combination to get in.
Well, here's a question for you. Here's a question for you. You are 96 years old.
Yes.
Is there anything that you haven't done yet that would be on your bucket list that you would still like to do?
What?
I'm wondering if there's anything that you would still like to do. Anywhere you'd want to travel if you were able, or any other.
Boy.
Or do you think, it sounds like you've had a full life.
Well, anywhere. I'll go anywhere.
Okay.
Anywhere anybody wants to go, I'm game.
Good. And what do you think, go ahead.
No.
And the other question I have for you is, to be this wonderful age, are there any secrets you would share with us as far as how you got to be able to live so long? Any secrets, any advice you want to give us?
Oh, I love this age.
Yes?
I've met all, you people are all so nice. And, when we came here, we were in Wittenberg first.
Right. And
then came over here, and everybody's so nice. I feel like I've made so many nice new friends. And a lot of them are sitting there looking at me. No, they're all great. I really do. I love it. We like it here. Really do like it. And it's fun.
Good.
It is.
Is there any advice you would give to young people, whether they be your grandchildren or to other young people? Any advice you would give them at this?
Just please be good citizens. Don't try things that you know you can't do, and you're going to make a mess of it if you try. Listen to yourself. If they want you to, I'm no goody-goody by any means, but don't do nasty things, and don't talk about people if you don't saying things about them that you don't know at all. I think I've made so many good friends here that I think I have. I mean, I feel that way. They're great, all of them. Really great. I'm looking at a lot of them now. So it's really nice. I love it here. I have from day one. We lived in Wittenberg first, and then where we are now. But you're all great people.
And I have one final question. In your lifetime, is there any certain invention, or any certain invention or anything that maybe didn't exist when you were born that nowadays, or maybe wasn't very prevalent when you were young, that you thought, boy, I would never want to live without that?
Well, I don't know. I think things are more open now. Things that everybody thought had to keep hush-hush in families. It seemed that way. I don't know. I don't remember it bothering me, but I see it in other people.
Okay.
I'll spout off anytime I want to and hopefully keep my friends. But, yeah, no, I feel like I really love it here. I have. My husband did too.
It's a wonderful place to live.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different, but I mean, we're all different. But everybody's so nice. I'm looking at a lot of you now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's a great place. It really is.
Yep.
I'll be a good advocate for it anytime.
Perfect.
No, it's great. Men and women, all nice people.
Yeah.
I sat this morning for breakfast at the table with 3 men. I usually sit at the other one, but it was full, so I sat with these 3 men, and they were great. We chatted and talked just like, they were they are good friends.
Yeah.
But it's nice. I
That's
love
wonderful.
it here. I really do.
We're fortunate to be
It's a
here.
great place, people. Really is.
Yep. Well, Jean, we've run out of time.
Okay.
So I would like to ask everybody to help me thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you. When she told me she wanted to interview me, I got kind of scared. I thought, what's she going to ask me?
I told you it would be easy. At this point, I'd also like to thank Brian Damaska, who manages the Aspire Wellness Program and asked for this to be these interviews to occur again this year, and also Owen Miller for taping them so we can watch them on Channel 900 and on the Aspire Wellness YouTube channel. They will be rebroadcast, and so some of you have seen them on Channel 900 already, but we will be rebroadcasting them again as the weather gets a little cooler and we're indoors a little bit more often. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining us throughout this series, but most of all, I do want to thank Jean again. So thank you, Jean, and you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.